Hello. From this paper here, I want to recreate a table such as this one. So there's various things that I will have to do. That includes formatting the cells, making sure they're square, change the angle of the text, have two different values in each square, have a gradient of colour based on the value of the square. So we want to do all of these different things and then also have a key by the side to indicate what the different colours mean. I've tried different programs, but I found the best spreadsheet to use for this was LibreOffice. OpenOffice would be quite similar. Now, a spreadsheet in LibreOffice is called Calc, so if I go to the menu here, I've recently opened it, so let's open up a new one here. So before I start with the formatting, I'm just going to put in some of the data. To do that, it'd be useful to have both windows on my screen at once. I'll hold the title bar here, move it over to the left, so it takes half the screen, then it will ask which one I want to share it with. Of course, this is in Windows, it might be different in other operating systems. So let's choose that PDF file with the paper and the table inside of it, and we'll do a little bit of data entry. Now let's start off with the bottom values, because it's based on these values that we will get the colours. If I want to do a bit of data entry, it's best to use the calculator keys if you have that. If you aren't familiar with the best way of using your fingers for doing data entry, you put your three fingers, your index finger, middle finger, ring finger, on the three middle buttons on the calculator keypad, 4, 5, 6, and you can move them up and down to get 1 to 3 when you go down and 7, 8, 9 to go up. That's the fastest way to put in the numbers. So let's put in the first number, which is, it's a bit small, but it's 36. So I'll click at A1, right, 36. Now, you can use arrows to move about, but that's not the most efficient way of doing it. So assuming you're going to write along one row, then it's best to use the tab key to go from one cell to the next. So 36, tab 24, tab 0, tab 0, tab 1 is the first row. Now assuming that you started from the first one and press tab each time, pressing enter will not only take you to the next line but also take you back to where the table started. Okay, now it's not just necessarily the first column, even if I started somewhere else. So maybe I want to keep the first two rows and columns blank. If I wanted to add something else later, I could still go 36, tab 24, tab 0, tab 0, tab 1, press enter, and again it takes me below where I started. So I'm just going to do in the rest of this data, and it shouldn't take me too long if I follow that procedure. I'm halfway there already. It's quite hard to read that last one. Okay, so now I have the data. Next thing I want is to get the shading based on the values. So light values we'd want to be pale in colour, or white if it's 0, and higher values we want to be darker. So first I'm going to select the data that we have in the table, format menu, and conditional formatting. We could go to colour scale. Okay, so we don't need 3 entries for this, we could just have 2. If we want to recreate what we had in the table, we could start off at white and finish, oops, the max value, finish at, say, a dark blue colour. Let's use that one there. Okay, there we are. Now one thing that you might want to do, you might not want to necessarily finish at 80, you might want the scale to continue beyond that. So for example, if we were doing %, and if we didn't have 100% in the table but we wanted that to be maximum value, we could add 100 here, and then again I'll select the data. Let's go back to format, conditional, colour scale. Oh, it does already contain formatting. Do you want to edit the existing conditional formatting? I do indeed, yes. And I could try another colour. Now it might not be best if you want it to be in black and white, or depending upon what publication it might be printed in, so I might choose grey instead. And let's try that one there. There we are. Okay, that doesn't seem to have gone all the way up to 100. Let's try that again. I'll undo what we had before. Okay, get rid of the formatting. I think it's because it did the previous formatting. Format, conditional, colour scale, 2 entries. We're going to go from white to, no, I wouldn't want to go to black, or else we won't be able to read the writing, so I'll do like a medium grey, and let's try OK. Yep, and there we have it. It's scaled according to 100. Now you might think to yourself, yeah, but I don't want that 100 to be there, so what we could do, we could make that column sufficiently small so you don't actually see it. So if I do it all the way there, whoops, it should be, there we are. Okay, and that hides the column. Now I think what you could just do is, if we go to the menu there, and you can just hide the column as well, is another way of doing it. So although it's there, you don't actually see it. Okay, now there is a problem that we have here, is that we've got the scale here, but if I want to change one of these values, which I'm going to have to do if I want the 2 values there, so let's suppose I was to add in 100 here, and then now it's doing the scaling from 0 to 10031, and it's caused everything else to kind of go blank because all the other numbers are small compared to that one there. So what we'd want is that we'd want to be able to edit these cells but still keep the colours that we have. Now you might think just copy and paste it, and I've tried doing that different ways, pasting it as values or pasting just the formulas and so on, and what often happens is that you either lose the formatting altogether, or it will save it with the same formatting, so if you change it then you're still going to affect all the other cells as well. So one trick to avoid that, if I go to File and Save As, okay, let's call it Geo chart, chart 1. Okay, now I don't want to save it in the native ODS format, I'm going to save it in HTML. The reason being, when you save it in HTML, it will retain the formatting, but it won't have a conditional formatting, so I'd be able to keep the colours without it changing when I change the values. So I'll save that there. It's saying I'm going to lose information, but that's why I want to save it in HTML. So we'll say use HTML and I'll close it. Let's open it again. Is it there? No. So there we are, LibreOffice Calc. There we are. File. Open. In fact, recent documents I could do. File, recent documents, GeoChart1. That's there. And I'll just choose automatic location, and there we are. We've got the same thing. So now when I change the values, I'll add a 1 there, you'll notice it doesn't affect the cells. Okay, so that's what we want. Now you might think, shouldn't I have formatted it before I saved it? And I did try that before, but when you save it in HTML you can lose some of the formatting, so it's best to enter the values first, save it in HTML, then do the formatting. Okay, so first thing we'd want to have it as square. So you can get approximately the size, by dragging one of these down to make it approximately square. So that's about right, maybe a bit more. Yeah, that's about right. So I did that mostly just to see what size it's going to be, and let's see if I was to do the right mouse button, and you can get the row height. As you can see there, it's about 2 centimeters, so I might just round it to 2 centimeters. So I'm going to select the first 5 cells there, and right mouse button or menu button, row height, set it to 2 centimeters. Okay, and I want the columns to be exactly the same size, so I'll select the columns as well. Menu button, column width, and set it to be exactly 2 centimeters. Okay, so now it's exactly the same width and height. Another thing we might want is to center the writing. Let's make this a bit bigger, so don't need the data right now. I'll center it both horizontally and vertically as well. There we are. Okay, we also need a couple of columns to the side, so let's insert column 4 again. Okay, it's probably a good idea to leave a blank one free on top. Okay, unfortunately it's kind of got that formatting still. Let me just clear that, select that one there, background colour, no fill, there we are. Okay, what else do we want? We'd want it to have a kind of a grid. We could select the grid here. Right, and if we do all inner lines as well as the outer border, there we are. Okay, so we've got the grid there. So next thing we want to do is to add other values to the table. So let's make this smaller again. If I go into the first square, let's double click to edit. 59.0%. 59.0%. Now, I don't want to just press enter, that will take me to the cell below. So let's go back here. What I would do then, depending what spreadsheet you're using, it could be Alt Enter, but on this one here it's Control Enter. Okay, now I've got the 2 values. You might want to add a space in between the 2 values. So Control Enter. Okay, and let's go on to the next one. 39.3. Now it's a bit awkward when I have to keep going to the mouse to then select the next one. 9.3, Control Enter twice. Okay, so then rather than doing that, so you don't have to keep moving your hand to the mouse, you can press F2. Will let you edit it. Now, pressing home will take you to the start. And okay, what's the next one? 0.0%. In fact, quite a lot of 0.0%. It probably makes sense if I just copy that and then I can just paste it later on. Control C to copy, Command C if you're on Apple computers. And let's see what's again, Control Enter twice. There we are, and I should really press Tab rather than Enter to put it in. So let's see, F2 to edit, Home, Control V, so I've just copied it, Control Enter twice, and there we are. Whoops, I'll press Enter again. Okay, and so on, we can continue it that way. Now you might think that that is good enough, but you might say I don't have a lot of control as to the actual placement of the text. You could perhaps change the size of the text. So if I made that like 12, then that would have some effect on the placement of the text. But to have better control, what you could do is you could take one of these rows. I'll just do it as an example, and I could insert a row above. Okay, in fact, probably better if I insert a row below. Let's see, let's do it again, insert row below. Okay, now the advantage there is that it does copy the same formatting as you've got above. And then what I could then do is, if I want to copy those values to be on the lower one, Control C to copy, and if you want to paste just the values, I could do the right mouse button, paste special number. Okay, there we are, and let's see, so yeah, it might be a bit distracting having these numbers already there. If I just select it, press the delete key, it will delete the values, but we've still got the formatting. And then I could write the numbers above here. So the first one is 0.0%. Okay, so that gives you a bit more freedom as to the spacing of the two, but it doesn't really allow you to change the kind of spacing in between the two. So if you really wanted to have more control, instead of splitting in two, you might want to split it in three. So let's add an extra row below. Insert row below. So this middle one is not going to serve much purpose, except to control this kind of spacing between the two. So if I do the upper value here, let's say 0.0%, okay, as an example, then let's select the three rows that we have here, and let's change the row height. So you might remember the row height before was 2 centimeters. You can see it there. So I'd want this to be 1/3 of 2 centimeters, since I've split it in two, which is going to be 0.67. Not exactly, but rounded, that's what it will be, 0.67. And there we are. Okay, if you're now, we can make kind of subtle changes in the height here. And we can control the kind of spacing between. It might be better if you kind of align this to the bottom. Let's make this a bit bigger again. I'll align that to the bottom, align the lower row to the top, means you've got more control as to the amount of spacing below, the amount of spacing above, and the amount of spacing in between. So if you wanted a particularly small space, you could set the middle one to be small to get them particularly close. Of course, make sure that it's going to be approximately square, so as I've done that, it's not looking very square, so if I have to make the top one a bit, oops, I meant this one here, maybe make the top one a bit smaller and the bottom one a bit smaller to try and make it more square. Another thing we'd have to do is, if we've got this grid already here, we'd want to clear the grid and this time only use the outer square. This one here, outer border only. There we are. Okay, so if you want more control, you can do it that way, but I'm going to revert back to the way it was and use it the first way that I described. Okay, that's the way it was, just using Control Enter. So I'll continue this for the rest of the table and then get back. Hello, so I've entered in all the data now. The next thing I want to do is to add the keys to the rows and the columns. So let's go back to the PDF document with the table. Here we are. And if we look to the immediate left of it, we've got this one, BIM SVC. So let's write that one there. In fact, let's have as we had before, doing half of it. Put that down a bit. Don't need that just now. And I'll write caps lock on BIM, and there's a bit of a, you might want a bit of a dash there as well. Dash. Okay, so this time we want the alignment to be centre vertically and to the right, so it's against the table. There we are. So rather than doing it just for one cell, it would be better if we did the rest of these first, then formatted it GDI, FVC, and the last one NFFVC. Okay, oops, I forgot to do the little dash at the end. I guess it's optional, but that's the way it was in the original document. There we go. So let's select the rest of it. So we want to align centered vertically and to the right. There we are. Right, next thing to the left of that is true label, and that covers the whole height of the table. So let's select 5 cells that make it up, and we would want to merge those cells together. Here we are here, merge cells. Right, and let's put that back to half the size again. True label, we want to write true, oops, had caps lock on, I forgot, label. So we'd like that to be vertical. I'll go to format, cells, okay, and I believe it should be, where is it now, numbers, font, alignment, here we are. And we can get a rough angle this way, but if we want to do exact, we'd want to write in 90 degrees. Let's OK that. There we are. Let's align centre horizontally and vertically again. There we are. Okay, so there's a, when I see it in its vertical format, then seems to be kind of artifacts in some of the letters. I see the T is looking unusually thick. I might decide to change the font there. Let's select it, choose another font. Now if you're doing a table, you probably want to choose a sans serif font. If you're wondering what that means, if you take for example this font here, Italianate, you'll notice there's what we call glyphs, at the top and bottom of the I. There's kind of lines going across, and there's a kind of a slight dash here, and the A is kind of curled towards it. Now these little added features to the letter can make it easier to read when you have a large body of text, but when you've got a table, then you often want it without these extra features, so it becomes a bit clearer. That's what we call sans serif, sans in French being without these serif, these extra features. Okay, now could even do kind of a monoscript, so every character is the same length, something like lucid or song. In fact, one that I quite like is Gilson's. It's familiar to London Underground type of writing. It uses Johnson, which is quite similar. Let's make it a bit bigger as well. There we are, true level. Okay, there we are. Similarly, at the bottom, we'd want that to be at an angle. I don't know exactly the angle, but looks about 45 degrees. So, first of all, you might see there's a little kind of line below. If you want to, we could put in what we sometimes call pipe, or a vertical line in the cell. Okay, let's put that in the centre then, and let's make it a bit smaller. In fact, 10 points, 5 or something. Okay, yeah, so we just need a little line there. Make it bold, a bit thicker, and we'll adjust it so that, let's put it to the top as well, why don't we? Let's see, a line to the top, there we are. Okay, there's still a slight margin that has it at the top of it. Okay, but, oops, let's put it down here. Okay, so that's close enough. Make it half screen again. So let's have a look. I'll try one, see how it goes. BIM, BIM, enter, and as before, let's go to Format, Cells, Alignment, 45. Let's see how that looks. Okay, so when I made it 45 degrees, then it's caused it to kind of go a bit to the right. So to compensate for that, let's align to the left. Okay, good. And that kind of aligns up with the line there. Okay, that's probably as good as I'm going to get it. So let's do this. SVC tab GDI. I'll just keep caps lock on. FVC and NFFVC. There we are. Now I want to have the same line going across here, so I'll go to the bottom right where you see that little square and drag across. Okay, now it can have different effects depending on what we have here. If it's a number, you could get the number to add up, but in this case here, it's just going to make a copy of it. And let's do the same formatting that we have here. So we wanted to format, cells, alignment, 45 degrees, 45, enter. And if we align to the left, that will align it up a bit better. Okay, maybe if we align to the top. Yeah, that looks a bit better when we align to the top as well. Right, I think that's about as good as we'll get it for here. And below it, what have we got? Predicted label. So let's do that one there. Predicted label. Let's select the 5 here. So I want to align and center. This one here. Sorry, merge and center, I meant to say. There we are. Let's make it a little bit bigger as well. 14 or something. There we are. Let's make this one a bit smaller so it's more compact. Okay, maybe that's a bit too big. Let's make it 12. And for consistency, let's make this one 12. Okay, I do remember having a conversation with someone now. A lot of people use 10 points as the default value it often starts with, but someone of a certain age said they don't like 10 points, they want bigger than 10 points to make it more readable. So do bear that in mind in terms of accessibility, that you might want to increase the size to be above 10 points, but of course when you're making tables you have to balance that with making sure you can fit the table within the space that's available. On that topic, we probably want to see, how would this look like if you were to print it. We could go to File, Print Preview. There we are. So as you can see there, it's taking up a large proportion. So it seems about the right size. If you were to centre that, it would probably take up the right width. But if you wanted to have other content to the side of it, you might want to adjust it to have a different size. Okay, let's close that now. Now, one advantage of doing print preview, we notice these kind of like dotted lines will show you where the page boundaries would be. So we could have more content in the next cell, but not in the cell after. Okay, so that's us about done, but let's look at different options that we can do to get this bar going to the side. Now, I have noticed that in LibreOffice it doesn't actually show you the scale as it would in some other spreadsheets. Well, let's have a look in when we go to Format, Conditional, just to show what I mean. And if we have to do the colour scale, so let's do what we had before. If I was to do white and that grey we had before. So when we, in other programs, will actually show you a kind of a scale that's similar to what we have there to show the variation as you go along, but it's not showing in this particular one. Okay, that's okay. So what can we do then to counter that? To be honest, you might find it easier to create a gradient perhaps in another program. You could perhaps use an ink dropper to pick the colours at the extreme values and then add that into another program to create a gradient. So there's plenty of applications that deal with colours where you could make gradients. I quite often use GIMP with it being open source, but you could even do that in, say, presentation software like PowerPoint, create a bar with a gradient. If you did want to do that, using the same colour scale we've got before. Here's one way that you could recreate it. I'm going to go down to, let's say, 150, see, just to give me sufficient space for what I'm going to do. So row 150. Whoops, that's from earlier. Delete it. Okay. Let's start at 0 here. Oops, that seems to have kept the percentage. And I want each row to be one higher than the one below it. So to do a formula, let's start with equals. So I'll go down to the cell below. You can click a cell, but if I just do the down arrow, that will do that one there. Or if you want, you could actually write the cell reference, column C, row 151. And let's see, what do we want to do? We want to add 1. There's one way of doing it, 1. And now if I go to where the square is and drag it up, then it will follow that formula. Now, to be honest though, when it is just 0, you might not, whoops, sorry, let's start again. If it is just 0, you might not have to do that, so if I just drag it up there, whoops, it's going in the wrong direction, it's going down instead of up. Okay, then we could do that and then create the negative of the values. There's another way of doing it. Now if I was to go down, it would kind of count down a way, but which is what people would normally do, is normally go down, but we want to kind of go up a way. So we'll stick with the previous plan. Okay, let's see what we had there, and let's keep going up. So I started at 150, so I think if I go up to 50 it will take me to 100. Let's check that. I might be out by 1 or so. So let's just drag all the way up to 50. Oh, there we are. Let's see what we get to 101. I'll just delete that last one. So you might remember that when I did the scale, I was doing it from 0 to 100. So you want to go up to whatever the highest value was. Okay, well, if you have to use the scale that they've got there, it goes up to 80, which is the highest value that was used in the second row. Right, so what could we then do? I'm going to make another copy of this. So if you want to see what I did, I went down to the bottom one. So to quickly get from place to place, if you want to go to the top item in a group, or the bottom item in a column, hold down Control and down takes me to the top one, down again would take me to the bottom of that group. And if you've got a group below, Control down would take me to the next group that's below that. So I'm going to do something similar. I'll hold down Shift to select, Control, and up will let me select that section, Control C. If you're on an Apple computer, you would often use Command instead of Control. I'm going to go one along, Control V. So we've got basically the same thing side by side. Okay. Then I'm going to do the same conditional formatting that we had before on these cells. Let's do that. So format, conditional, colour scale, and let's do 2 colours. We had it white to begin with, and we had that kind of medium, was it that grey? Oh, I hope I get this one right. Okay, make sure you do select the same colour when you're doing this, of course. Okay, now if you wanted to test if it was the same, well, you could go up to the data you've got and do the same test, check that it doesn't change what you had before, but okay, let's assume that that is right. got the values to the left and we've got the colour scale on the right. Now you might think, I don't want every single value to show, maybe I just want every 10th value to show. So here's a little trick we can do. Let's Control Shift up to select that column group, and we'll do Format, Conditional, let's do Condition this time. Okay, cell value is equal to, now let's see, what we could do is if it ends with, so every multiple of 10 ends with a 0, and everything that's not multiple of 10 will end with a different digit. So if I do end with 0, that will isolate every multiple of 10 ends with 0. Okay, and then I could pick a style. Okay, so accent. So as you can see there, that has kind of made it bold, every 10th one. So before I go any further, I just want to check that the style is what I want it to be. Let's go to styles and accent. Accent 1's the first thing that comes up. Let's have a look there. Now that wasn't exactly what I wanted. I did it kind of like black there and white. That's not what I wanted. So I'm going to edit the style. Okay, so if I want to edit the style of accent 1, well, I'd want to have a white background and black writing for a start. Let's go to styles and manage styles. If it's not already open, I'll open up this panel on the right, so I can do the menu or right mouse button on accent 1, edit style. Okay, let's make the writing bold. We could make the size a lot bigger than it is. Let's say 40. Now you might think that is quite huge, but it might have to be for what we want to do. We want to zoom out a bit and we'd want the writing still be visible. The one disadvantage of doing that is that it would make the colour scale a bit disproportionate, because the other ones would be still of size 10 and this would be size 40, but we want it to be visible after we zoom out. In fact, we could make it even bigger if we wanted. Let's stick with 40 just now. Liberation Song, that seems to be a fine font. The font colour, we don't want to be white, we want to be black. So if you didn't notice, that's in the Font Effects tab. We don't need any other effects, I don't think. Alignment, we don't really have to change anything. Borders, we don't really need anything. Background, we want the background to be white. There we are, and yeah, I think that should be fine. So if I did OK, now it's showing these hashtags here. That basically means it's not big enough to kind of see within that cell. Now I don't want to change it, because if I scroll up a bit, that'd be affecting what is above. So I could cut this and put it into an empty place. So Control X to cut, and let's go over here. So yeah, I'm not using that column there, and I'll make that column a little bit bigger. If I click twice in the border between the two, it will automatically adjust it so that you'll be able to see it. And there we are, that's looking okay. So I said we want something that would still be visible if we zoom out. So let's zoom out several times. Yeah, and it's still visible even after we zoom out several times. Yeah, so that should be fine. Okay, again it became less visible if we do it there. But let's make this column here wider as well, so it's more visible as we zoom out. Okay, there we are. So yeah, that could work. Fantastic. To put it back to the right size, if we click on that line in the middle, that should be at 100%, the size that we were working with before. Great. I'm going to select this column here, so Shift Control down to select that whole column section. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to make all the writing white just now. So because the background's white, that would mean that we won't be able to see the writing. So it appears as if there's nothing there. Of course it is there, we just can't see it with a white background. So go to font color and choose white. And there we are. So as you can see there, it looks blank. We know it's not blank, but it does look that way. So once again, what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the conditional formatting so that anything that ends with 0 is going to be this accent 1 style. So select the text, format, conditional, condition, ends with 0, choose accent 1, and let's click OK. There we are. So you might notice that some of these are not showing up because it didn't automatically change the row value. I want to see the contents, and like what we did before, we can select the rows. Oops, let's try again. We can select the rows. Let's go way down to the bottom, and again if we click the border between rows, so we've got that kind of up and down arrow, that's when we're in between, double click it, should adjust it so that the row height is what is needed to actually see the writing inside. There we are there, so as you can see there, now you can see those particular values. Good. Yep. Let's make this one a bit wider again because we're going to zoom out, so it works well after we zoom out. Okay, so another issue is that we've got these numbers inside of the table there. If you are just interested in taking an image, once you zoom out, you could just take that part of it that doesn't have the numbers. So you could do like a copy of that one there. Okay, but it's not ideal. It would be better if you couldn't see it at all. So let's zoom back in. Another thing you could try as well is you could make the writing very small so you can hardly see it. So let's select it, and you might think make it 0 point. It doesn't exactly go to 0 point. I'll set it to a minimum of 2 points. So as you can see there, it's still there, but it's just very small. One thing that you shouldn't do is, like what we did last time to make it invisible, is to set it white, because now we have different colours inside of it. So if I was to set the writing to be white, as you can see at the beginning it works quite well, but as you go further up it's clearly visible with a dark background. So if we want it to be truly hidden, here's what we can do. Let's select the column again, go to format, cells, and we want to go to cell protection and hide all. Okay, now it will say cell protection is only effective after the current sheet has been protected. So if I press OK, in fact let's do hide when printing as well, so it's the same when you print it, and it doesn't seem to have done anything. So as the writing said, is that it will only take effect if the cell has been protected. Now there's different ways you can protect the cell, but probably the easiest if you go down to where we have the name of the sheet, the tab at the bottom, here it says sheet 1. Let's press the menu key on the mouse, usually the right button, and protect sheet. It's going to ask for a password. Well, there's nothing secret here, so I'll do something obvious. Show, S-H-O, let's try again, S-H-O-W. Confirm has to be the same, S-H-O-W. And OK. And as you can see, now it has, now you can't see the writing that was there. OK. Also, if I try to change it, it comes up with this message: protected cells cannot be modified. Great. And yeah, so what we could do, we could zoom out several times, and there we have our key. Let's now, so if you want to take an image of that, you could do Windows Shift S, and then you could select that. Okay, we'll show the kind of the lines in between that way. Another way of kind of taking a screenshot is if you have a print screen button, it does the same thing there. You can draw a box over what you want. We've still got these grid lines, these page breaks are kind of in the way though. So what we could do to get rid of them, let's go to View, and it's got grid lines, so let's do that one there, and yeah, that gets rid of that. We've still got these lines to show where the page breaks are. Unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be one in this menu for View, but I found it out. If we go to Tools menu, Option, and LibreOffice Calc, if it's not already there, click on that one there to expand it, then click on View. Then there's a page break one there, so if we click on that one there and apply. Okay, there we are. Yeah, so that would look a whole lot nicer now if we were to do a screenshot of that. Control Shift S. Whoops, let's try it again. Windows Shift S, I should say. And there we are. So if I take that one there, and I should be able to paste that in a document. So if we go to File, New Text Document, Control V, there we are. And that looks pretty okay. And we could do the same for the other one. Of course, we'll have to zoom back to it for ordinary size. So if we go back to the middle here, get to the ordinary size, let's go to the top. And again, I could do, well, I could do a screenshot, but it might be easier if I just select this one here. Select what we have, Control C to copy, and let's go down to the bottom, yeah, that one there, and let's do Control V to paste it in. Okay, as you can see, we've lost some of the formatting. If you do that, there is a danger that that will happen. So we could, if you want to kind of retain it, you could try and change it, but I wouldn't do that one. I can paste it as an image. Now, the problem is, of course, if we paste that as an image, press escape to get rid of that dash line. The problem is, of course, if we paste it as an image, we won't be able to edit it within the writer or Word or whatever you're using document. But we'll be able to see the full formatting that we made there. And if we do need to edit it, then what we could do, we could always go back to the original document, make an edit, and copy the image and paste it back into the document again. Other thing I guess you could do, you could kind of link it as a file, so let's do that on there. So if I take the screenshot again, okay, now I've probably done a bit too much because I can see I've got a bit in the top and bottom. I could probably in the side that I don't need. So let's paste that in, Control V. Okay, so as you can see there, we've got a little bit in the side that we don't particularly want. So what we'd want to do then is to crop bit. So you can see here, crop image. Let's crop. You can see we've got these little bars here. Can go to this little bar, move it in a bit. Yep, and that will get rid of that bit on the side. Maybe we want to get rid of a bit at the top because it's blank, and the bit in the bottom is blank as well. So it might be better to err on the side of copying too much and too little, and you could always sort of crop it later on. Okay, yeah, there we are. That's a little bit better. So good. Now you might think, yeah, what's happened there? I can't find what we had before. As you can see there, it's hidden behind. That's not what we want. We'd like it so that we could have the two side by side. So I could just move this down, take this one here, move this to the side, and move this along. Okay, that's one way we could manually do it. The only problem is if we were to kind of just place things kind of floating, if you like, then that means if we write something, then it might not align with it. So probably what we want to do is to anchor it. So according to the anchoring you have, it could be very different what happens when you add text. So let me just add some text to this document here. And yeah, that was a bit unusual. So I write a word, I press enter to go into the next line. And instead of it going on to the next line, it kind of went to the right of this one here. Now probably what we'd want is we'd want to kind of have the image in line with the text, and then every time you do a new line, that will kind of push the image down along with it. And then if we go past the image, then it doesn't affect it. That's probably what you would want. So let me get rid of this writing bin. Whoops, I don't want to get rid of it. Okay, so there's another strange thing you might notice as I delete it, is changing the ones at the bottom as well. Okay, even though that writing came after the image, as I delete it, it's kind of pushing it to the left of the image. So if I do the menu or right mouse button and then go to anchor, if you do anchor as character, that's probably the more intuitive one. That's also more like what it does in a lot of other programs. And so you notice when I do that, it then kind of like aligns itself to the dimensions of the page. The one problem with that is that it gives you kind of less freedom to the placement. Now when I kind of move it, it's anchored to that position, unless if I move it down onto another line, but I can't move it to the right, put it in the centre if I wanted to. So it's more like a word processor in desktop publishing. Okay, but then if I go to the left of it and then press enter, you'll notice it moves down with it, and then if I start writing, then you'll notice it moves the document down, and then if I go after it, then yeah, it does exactly what I want. And then if I kind of delete it, then whoops, didn't mean to delete that much. Let's undo that. So you'll notice that also when I delete the text, you know, if the image is kind of in the way, then it will delete the image along with the text if that comes next. Okay, so let's go back here. So I think that's probably the more intuitive way. So there we are. That's how you could make the diagram. Now there's other ways of doing this as well, and I think it depends just how often you're going to do this type of thing. If you're only going to do it a few times, then you could probably do exactly as I've described there. However, if you are going to be doing it several times, if you want to stick within a spreadsheet environment, then you might want to program a macro to do something like this, or if you want to be even more flexible, then you might want to do a bit of coding to produce something. So in particular, if you're using Python and perhaps something in pandas, or possibly like PyChart or PyPlot or something like this, could do something similar, but it would take some time. It won't take a very huge time in order to code it, so it'd be worth your time to produce such code, so you don't have to go through this whole procedure. You could just input the data and run the program, and it will automatically put all the data in the right place. Okay, so do consider that if you're going to do this often. If not, then I hope that the solution that I've presented here is sufficient, but let me know, contact me if you need any more information or if you have any such problems. Thank you very much.